All can hear me? Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So my name is Rune Larsen. I work for Accenture Industry X, and we are the guys in Accenture that works with industrial technologies. So everything from designing products, we are designing software for firmware, we are working with software-defined vehicles, we're working with plant systems like MES system, PLM systems, capital project, we're designing plants, production lines, and everything that has to do with the what we call the operation technologies. And I lead that in the Nordics. My name is Rune Larsen. So what we actually do is to kind of use digital technologies to bridge the gap between the consumer, the production, and breaking down the silos. You probably all heard about the convergence between IT and OT, and we are working on these projects right now. So that is Industry X in Accenture. How many of you work with the sustainability and technology today in this? Quite a lot of you, yeah. This is some results from a survey we did before the Edinburgh conference, the climate conference. And some things that we need to think about as technologies, and well, in the intro, he also talked about it. Most CEOs, a lot of CEOs, think that technology is an important tool to achieve sustainability goals. But 53% of them, and I think that may be understated, do not understand the technologies needed to achieve the sustainability goals. So we as technologists and business people and business developers, we need to educate the management out there. How can we actually use technology to help us reach the sustainability goals? I guess you all read and seen newspapers lately about the state of the rivers, the infrastructure, the natural infrastructure in Europe, Donau, the Loire, the Rhine, and Po in Italy, no water left. Egypt, who's going to have the next climate conference, is now at a critical level, and they might run out of water in 2025. So, and also, they have large difficulty to understand how they source and how they measure the suppliers across the value chain. So this is a problem that we as technologists and we as talking to management in these companies to make them understand how technology can help them. And we need to use common language, and we need to understand what how can we bridge that gap between business speak, technology speak, to make things happen. Do you agree?
Yep.
So what do we do then? What are we talking to customers right now? I work only with industrial companies. I do not work with, let's say, the digital startups and the app factories and all that. I only work with the companies like Volvo and SKF and Atlas Copco and Scania and these kind of companies. So they are asking now, instead of looking for how do we design products, how do we design products that are of course of high quality, but usually the constraints were how do we design products that are of a certain quality, of a certain material quality, and these constraints. Now they're asking us to help with how do we design products that are sustainable, that can modularize it, that can use different parts of the products across product lines. So these are the questions they're asking us right now. Can you please help us design products that are sustainable? So these constraints are also put into the design of products. Of course, when I mentioned the understanding the value chain, I had a discussion with a car manufacturer and said, we want to have a dashboard, a sustainability dashboard for our cars. I just asked him one simple question. Which car or one you make is the most sustainable? Do you think they could answer me? Of course not. They had no idea. They knew probably that an electrical car was more sustainable than a combustion car, but they weren't sure because they couldn't measure it across the whole supply chain. So how do you drive these changes? How do you put penalties? How do you do change management and contract management with these suppliers? Because the car is not manufactured by only one company. It's a host of companies. How do we make sure that our manufacturing practices are sustainable? How many of you have been in a factory before? A lot of you guys, that's not bad. Typically, many people have never been in a factory. So, when you go into factory, in any factory, you will find old equipment, new equipment, equipment that's not connected to anything, maybe to power. Most of the time it's power, but anyways. So, they do not have the data to drive continuous improvement in the production processes. And we'll talk a little bit about the help a company with just now. So they're looking at how do you optimize, how do we break down the silos, how do we actually use the data to be more efficient, reduce scrap, use less energy, and so on and so forth. And the last thing is, of course, how do we service our products? Can I do remote expert supervision or repairs instead of traveling? Can we return them in a more efficient way? Can we renew them in a more efficient way? And the last thing is, of course, can we remanufacture and recycle our products today? So, Volvo Trucks is looking at now how can we combine two trucks that we get back from the market, from the fleets, and combine them into a new truck without producing a whole new truck. And what you need to do that? What you need to know, you need to have the data of the use, the life cycle of that particular truck. So these are the things. So they collect data, more and more data from these trucks. So this is one of Sweden's largest companies. They make household appliances, and they were looking at how can we reduce energy in our production. So they had these large furnaces. They used them to change the properties of metals, to maybe glue things together. And some of these furnaces reach temperatures of 2,000 degrees. And then, of course, it needs startup time, warm-up time, to get to that level. But they have no idea how do we actually do this, or when do we start it. It being the synchronization with other production steps that they haven't before that, the furnace. Most of the knowledge were intrinsic to the operator. So we had it in his head, but it was not science. It was feelings, gut feelings, and they've always done this way before. So we optimized these things by, we first worked on how do we collect the data, and we used something called Kepware, and we collected data into what's called the OPC server, and then we started analyzing the data. And this was for 19 assets, and this was just for furnaces. And this is the result. So this is for one factory. Now we're rolling this out globally. So, 700,000 tons a year for one asset, or 19 assets in one production facility, and they have like 50 factories around the world. It makes an impact. And then it goes step by step from the next. What's the next opportunity? Can we reduce scrap? Can we increase quality? So we have a lot of these opportunities in the manufacturing space. All the things companies are talking to us about right now, because there's a difference between brownfield, existing production plants, which is in data speak will be called legacy systems, and the greenfield opportunities, all these new companies that are startups, hydrogen plants, battery manufacturing plants. And they're asking us some of the same questions, but they're asking what can we do now with the latest from IT and OT technology to combine these to be competitive in the international markets. So what is the state-of-the-art architectures that we can use? And then, of course, they have all the same problems as many other companies. They have a short time to market, there's a limited window of opportunity, and there's a lack of skills. I had a talk at Chalmers University earlier this year, and the professor said, if you come across anybody under 25 that has a decent knowledge of IT or technology, just hire them. Because young people are a dying breed in Europe. So there's population, there's less population, less talent coming in. So we need to be working together in the ecosystem to actually help these companies. Climbworks, it's a Swiss company. They're going to build, going to capture CO2 out from air. Don't ask me how it works, because I was not a part of that project. But I wanted to highlight this is some of the startups that are coming out there to kind of combat climate change. And so they're going to scale this, and they're going to use sustainable energy, because you know that Iceland has a lot of heated underwater that can use for power and things like that. So what do we help them with then? We help them with market analysis. We help them with the offering. We also worked with the aviation industry to see how they can use this fuel that was gathered out of this. And of course, we redesign the plants to become more efficient, and then we do analyze the data. We collect the data from the production systems. Another trend that we see right now is that if they produce the same things in a lot of factories, how can we collect the data from all the different plants, combine the data, and look at how can we learn from each other? Best practices, automated, and driving down costs, sustainability issues, and also, of course, use data to do continuous improvement.